is Wednesday, July 20th. Welcome to this week's edition of CT Pulse on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski with Josh Fisher. Josh, we have a lot to get to today.
We do. We're giving everyone a front row seat, almost like you're in Cleveland, to what's happening here in Connecticut. We're going to talk about concussions. We're going to talk about heroin. We're going to talk about the Republican National Convention. And Doug Smith's going to stop by and make us laugh.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to that. But first up, we are welcoming our HAN Sports Director, Frank Granito. His first time on CT Pulse. Frank, welcome.
Thank you so much, guys. Great to be here.
Well, last week you had a great interview with Casey Cochran, who was a Massick football star. He wrote a piece called 13 Concussions. Tell us a little bit about it.
So Casey, yes, started as a Massick football player, went on and was a quarterback at the University of Connecticut. Had his career cut short. It was his junior year. He had just been named the starter, and in week one suffered a concussion against BYU at home at Rensselaer Field. That was the 13th concussion of Casey's career, which is an unheard of number.
Dating back to high school.
Dating back to youth football, which is an unheard of number. And I don't think anyone outside of Casey's family and maybe the training staff realized how far it was. Just a couple weeks ago, he got in touch with the Players Tribune, Derek Jeter's website, reached out to them, and he published an article titled 13 Concussions. And it talked a lot about what it felt like getting those concussions, how he got his first concussion, but most importantly, he covered what young players, specifically youth players today, should be feeling. You should not be going out onto the football field and saying, oh, I've got concussion-like symptoms, but I can't let my teammates down. He did a great job of explaining that he wants to find a way to work with football. He's not in the camp of this game is too dangerous, we need to stop. It's there are ways that we can preserve this game and continue to make it great and protect our young kids. Casey went before the state and pitched a bill that would force parents and coaches at the youth level to be more aware of concussion-like symptoms and what they should be looking for. And he actually just went down to Alabama this week and he joined a speaking tour with several high school coaches, and he's talking to those players and teams down there now about what happened to him, how his career ended, and what they should be trying to do.
That's great. Well, Frank, we're going to play some of that interview right now. You did a great job with it. Check that out.
Last week, if you haven't read it yet, definitely check it out. Casey, I want to transition now. Last year in the spring, you spoke at the Capitol about a bill requiring parents and coaches to be more informed about the dangers of concussions. What was that experience like for you, and do you think it was a successful trip with where we are in today with the game?
I do. So that was my first ever touch or experience with advocacy work, and I had when I announced my retirement, it became a national story, and I got talked about by a lot of people. But that was the first time I ever got to explain how many concussions I ever had, and try to make a real difference. So, I got to go up and speak on behalf of a bill, which basically all it was that every youth coach in Connecticut now needs to provide a free link to the CDC website where they define what concussions are. It's bare bones of what we can do to start informing parents, and I would like to start to make more steps towards youth concussion bills in Connecticut specifically, but it was a great first step, and for me it was awesome to get up in front of the media in Connecticut, and specifically the legislators, and explain what's the day-to-day like for someone with concussions, with post-concussive syndrome as well. So, it was kind of love at first sight for me. As soon as I got to get up and share my story, it felt amazing to get it out and to share with people and know that I was making a difference. So, that really started me on the path of where I am now, and really got the ball rolling for the article that I wrote.
And you bring up a really good point, Casey, because so many times people think that it's only the NFL players or at the high D1 levels or even high school, but you forget that the youth football level is where you're almost most susceptible to suffering concussion, and if the kids aren't taught properly how to tackle, they're extremely vulnerable for concussions.
Yeah, exactly. So last year in America, there were 6 million youth football players. There are only a fraction, maybe 1% of high school players that play in college, and then only 1% of them play in the NFL. So, the girth and the overall population of players that can get injured and do get injured are in youth football. So that's where the efforts really need to lie. And people really need to realize that at that age, at young ages in elementary school and middle school, these kids are not developed physically, and they struggle with absorbing those hits, even though they aren't at the same rates. It's because of their size, because of their neck strength. These hits that they take are devastating, and specifically with the mental part of it too. We understand as a society how difficult it is to kind of come to grips with the world when you're growing up. You're trying to figure out the world around you. You're trying to make out what life is. So when you do take those type of hits to the head, it can be really hard growing up, just based on your mental process. So I think the efforts really need to lie in youth sports, and hopefully the decisions at the top can start to filter down and really start to help kids who are struggling.
Now, Casey, football is one of those beautiful sports where it's a team effort. There's 11 guys all counting on each other. You, when you played, suffered a little bit from the guilt of knowing you had a concussion but not wanting to let your teammates down. If you were to tell kids today who had that same feeling, how would you approach this with them?
I would try to tell them and explain to them that, hey, it's just a game, and at some point this game's going to end. I got so wrapped up in thinking that, hey, we need to go win the state championship. We need to go and win every game and, be great and be a great teammate. But, what I want kids to realize is that you can be a great teammate by admitting that you do have an injury, specifically with concussion. Based on what we know now, we know that a lot of kids are struggling and they want to be able to talk about it, but a lot of them feel like they can't. So, what I want kids to know is, hey, don't hide it, talk about it, and you can be a great teammate by being there for your other teammates. You can say, hey, I know you got hit on that last play. Let's talk about it. Are you okay? And if you're not, let's get you some help. Let's talk to our coach. Let's talk to our trainer. We need to be able to have clear lines of communications between players, between coaches and parents and the medical staff. So, that's really where it starts is with the players. Hey, don't hide it. You don't have to be on the field right now. But specifically in elementary school and middle school is, the level of play or the way we treat, younger athletes today is, it's more serious than ever. We have these stories of kids getting offers in 8th grade. We have parents who are traveling around the country with their kids in middle school, and we need to realize that they're 12 or 13 years old. They're still trying to figure out what they're going to do in high school, how they're going to be able to get around in the classes. We need to realize that youth sports should be there to keep our kids happy, healthy, and slowly learn work ethic and hard work and perseverance. But the thought that they need to be winners at 12, 13 years old, sometimes that gets carried over the top.
And it's a really good point. And Casey, we know you're working on a book, and we look forward to seeing that come out. But in the near future, next week, I understand you'll be down in Alabama joining a speaking tour. Can you explain to us a little bit what you'll be doing down there and who you'll be talking to?
Yeah, absolutely. So a company that I'm joining down there is called Practice Like the Pros. What we're going to be doing is talking to high school coaches and talking about how full contact practice should really be limited in the off season and during the season. A big majority of time spent in pads right now is during practice, and a lot of the injuries happen in practice. So we want to be able to let coaches know that, hey, here are some techniques that you can use during practice so that we can practice without pads on, limit the injuries, and have more playing time for these kids, more healthy playing time. So I'll be able to go down there, talk about my experience, talk about what I've gone through, and hopefully make some good difference down there in Alabama.
Well, Casey, I want to thank you for coming on. We wish you the best of luck on your tour next week. We wish you the best of luck with the book, and we hope that we...
So again, that was Sports Director Frank Granito talking to Casey Cochran about his piece, 13 Concussions. A really interesting discussion there, and everyone can check out the full interview last Monday's Nutmeg Sports. I believe the date on that, July 11th, so people can check that out.
All available
Josh.
at han.network.
All available
where you
there?
might be right now watching this.
We hope so. But switching gears now, talking about another story that the New Canaan Advertiser ran last week. Rich Durazo did a really interesting piece where he spoke with the family on the 1-year anniversary of the overdose death by heroin of their son, Evan Reinhart. I was able to catch up with Rich at the New Canaan sidewalk sale on Saturday and spoke with him a little bit about that story. Definitely timely. We're seeing a lot of overdose deaths in this region, Josh, as heroin becomes a growing issue. So check that out. I'm Kate Czaplinski for the HAN Network, and we're in New Canaan today, and we've caught up with Rich Durazo, reporter for the New Canaan Advertiser. Now, Rich, you just did a really moving story on Evan Reinhart, who the 1-year anniversary of his overdose death just happened, and you sat down with the family. Tell us a little bit about Evan's story.
Evan was a New Canaanite who started, as any New Canaanite would, going through elementary school, then Saks, and he eventually went on to a private school, and in that time he developed a habit with prescription pills, smoking marijuana and drinking and all those habits he picked up, and it really escalated when he had a wisdom tooth surgery where they gave him quite a bit of prescription medication and opioids, and he began using them a little too much, and he developed an even bigger habit than he already had, and it developed into heroin, and that led to his death last year in New Haven.
Now, this was someone that he had gone to rehabs. He had been a few times and had really done some great work there, right?
Yeah, he was really showing mass improvement. His parents told me that he was in his best shape of his life. He was really doing well at Turning Point in New Haven, and then it just, I don't know what happened, what went through his mind, but he started using again, and that led to his death. And it's really sad that he was doing so well, and the family had to deal with that.
And it's something we're seeing in headlines now more and more, young men and heroin overdoses in this region. It's become such a big problem. And I mean, these parents were very honest with you. Were you surprised at the honesty they showed?
Yeah, I really was, and I was very much impressed with their courage and the fact that they were so brave to really tell us their story that most people would try to keep under wraps, and I really respect that, and I think others should. I think Evan's story is really going to help people realize that it can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter who you are. It's really sad that that's the way it is.
And it's part of this bigger movement we've seen where people are not hiding anymore the fact that maybe a family member dies an overdose death. We're starting to see people come forward. And was that kind of their goal, to get the message out there and help other people?
Yeah, it seemed like they were trying to get out that the stigma of heroin and opioids and all that has kind of dropped, and people aren't afraid to try it, and that's the scariest part because it's so addicting. And Evan, his parents, they really want to help other people. They told me that they would have a little meet and greet with people on the side if they'd like, and to reach out to Evan's father and Paul, and talk to them and maybe learn something.
And what was it like for you as a young reporter to sit with parents for about 3 hours? You mentioned off air.
Yeah, it was a very moving 3 hours. I learned a lot. I was absolutely impressed with how prepared they were and how they really knew what they were trying to say, and the message that they gave me was unbelievable. I mean, they've been working very hard as a family to not only honor Evan, but to help others as well.
All right, well, Rich, that full story is at ncadvertiser.com. People should definitely check it out. You did a great job. It's on our other websites as well, and I appreciate you talking with us too.
No problem.
All right. Rich Durazo, thanks so much for joining us from NC Advertiser. I'm Kate Czaplinski for the HAN Network. Again, you can check out Rich Durazo's story at ncadvertiser.com. Josh, something we've talked about here on CT Pulse before about the bigger issue.
Right, and like Rich alluded to there too, we're seeing a lot more families come out. Because also, an important thing for these families too, particularly when one of their young adult children overdoses and dies on something like heroin, is they want their child to be remembered for who he or she was before the disease of addiction overtook their lives. And that's something that's important, I think, to do. And when you really get deep into Rich's story, you really see that.
Yeah, well, we are going to step out for a break, and when we come back, we're going to be taking a turn to politics. There's been a lot going on this week, a lot of Connecticut officials at the Republican National Convention.
Yeah, they got good views.
Yeah, they did. They had good seats, but we'll talk about that more coming up on CT Pulse after this. Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
Warm weather, light breezes, boats are in the water. There's no better place to celebrate summer than the Dock Shop. Whether in Darien at 51 Tokenique Road or Westport at 609 Riverside Avenue, the Dock Shop is where you'll find everything you need to kick off summer. From the latest summer apparel to the newest fishing tackle, the Dock Shop will help you get the most out of your next beach day or harbor cruise. At the Dock Shop, you'll find a wonderful selection of items made in the USA and right here in New England, all with a distinct nautical flair. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the coastal lifestyle, this is a unique place to shop. DockShop.com.
For more than 50 years, Triple S has been Fairfield County's expert service for carpet, upholstery, and drapery cleaning. We provide the best in repairs and in-depth restoration, understanding fabrics and how to properly clean and restore them. Our staff will come to your home to clean your wall-to-wall carpet to perfection. We can also pick up your fine carpets and bring them to our facilities. With locations in Norwalk, Stamford, and Stratford, Triple S will get the job done fast, big or small. At Triple S, you can count on our people as well as our cleaning. Find us at triplesclean.com or 203-847-8000.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
Welcome back to CT Pulse, where the men are men and the women are champions. We're going to get
more on that later.
First, a couple weeks ago, we had on Senate Majority Leader Bob Duff, who talked about this mileage tax, which some people are in favor of, about where you actually just get taxed for how far you drive, as opposed to different ways, tolls and everything.
Not a lot of details on it yet. Even Bob Duff said he wasn't sure what the plan was, but all the state is doing right now is studying it, along with some other states. They received a grant to do that, so important to know.
But Connecticut transportation expert Jim Cameron does have some details on how a mileage tax would work, and we'll hear them right now on Talking Transportation.
What's the fairest but least popular way to pay for our highways? I'm Jim Cameron for Talking Transportation, commentary and analysis on getting around in Connecticut. Back in April, I wrote about the challenges that we face to pay for Governor Malloy's $100 billion 30-year transportation plan, and I expressed some sympathy for his bipartisan blue ribbon panel that he tasked with coming up with funding alternatives. It's called the Transportation Finance Panel. To be honest, I think that panel may be on a fool's errand. They're trying to find a way to pay for a wish list of projects not of their making, many of which may not be necessary, let alone affordable. Maybe we don't need $100 billion, we only need $50 or $60 billion. But it's not their mandate to question our transportation governor. Someone else will have to do that vetting. But even as the finance panel does its work, exploring all manner of funding options, they are being literally second-guessed by politicians and public alike. Alternative number 1, how about tolls? Ooh, they're popular. No, too expensive. They're going to slow down traffic. And don't forget those flaming truck crashes at toll barriers. Well, it's not true that they're too expensive, and no, they don't slow down traffic, and there won't even be any toll barriers. How about the gasoline tax? Never very popular because it's unfair. Out-of-state motorists don't pay it, and improved gasoline mileage of cars means dwindling revenue. Well, it is fair. Yes, that's true. Some out-of-state motorists don't buy gas in Connecticut, and it's absolutely correct that improved gas mileage of cars means less revenue. And that brings us to what, at least to me, seems to be the fairest, most equitable fundraising mechanism yet discussed for paying for our roads. But it brought such a crap storm of bipartisan negative response when it was suggested. It's called a mileage tax, or a VMT, for vehicle miles traveled tax. The concept seems pretty simple. Have every motorist pay a tax for the number of miles they drive each year. The data could be collected electronically by GPS or with an odometer check when you get your annual emissions inspection. The more you drive, the more you pay, whether you drive on I-95 or backcountry roads. Mind you, if you take mass transit and you drive less, you won't be paying so much. The VMT idea was discussed at the Finance Panel's July 29th meeting, and the public and political reaction was immediate and universally negative. Senate Majority Leader Bob Duff of Norwalk called it unproven, despite successful trials of VMT in the Netherlands and in Oregon, and VMT's endorsement by the U.S. Government Accountability Office. Republican State Senator Tony Boucher called VMT nonsensical and an invasion of privacy, though testimony proved both of those claims wrong. Face it, folks, nobody likes a tax that they have to pay. Tax the other guy. Tax the trucker, the out-of-state driver, the real estate transferor, but don't tax me. Driving a car is not free. Paying for gasoline is only part of the cost, and even Connecticut's relatively high gas tax comes nowhere near to paying for the upkeep of our roads. Our deteriorating highways are a hidden toll as we pay for car repairs. The Transportation Finance Panel is going to find there is no easy or popular solution to paying for $100 billion of the governor's untested and, I think, unattainable wish list of projects. Whatever they recommend, citizens will scream bloody murder and their lawmakers are going to vote it down. But shame on reactionaries in Hartford for calling the VMT or any funding alternative dead on arrival. Let's at least let the Finance Panel do its job before saying that they've wasted their time. Jim Cameron for Talking Transportation.
So thanks as always to Jim Cameron. A more in-depth look at the mileage tax issue. Josh,
Kate?
Time to take a look at the Republican National Convention.
Yeah, have you been watching every night when you get home?
Oh, every night. I can't wait. But you found a cool map from the Washington Post that gives people a better idea of just what a great seat the Connecticut delegation had. Can we throw that up there, Eric?
Look at that front row. The only state with better seating is New York, which is, of course, the home state of the now nominee, Donald Trump.
Yeah, and it's blue because blue means they lean Democratic in presidential elections. So I found that interesting. There's a lot of blue up front.
There is, and they say one of the reasons why Connecticut is attributing the Hartford Courant has a nice story on this today, but Paul Manafort, Trump's campaign manager, is a New Britain native. His dad was the Republican mayor of New Britain years ago. And also Manafort has been saying he spoke to the Connecticut delegation yesterday, and he believes that Connecticut is in play. Connecticut's voted for the Democrat nominee for president the last 6 elections, but he says the tide is turning here, along with the rest of all the ways you work your way into the Midwest for Republicans. But Connecticut also got some nice coverage of the nomination of nominating Trump and sending all 28 delegates his way.
Yeah, so we do have a video, actually. This is from Linda McMahon's Facebook page. She shared this, and it's J.R. Romano, who is a Derby native, and he is the state Republican chairman announcing Connecticut's support for Trump. Check that out.
For the totaling down delegates, 28 Trump.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I come to the land where we manufacture Pez, nuclear submarines, and the home to WWE, where men are men and the women are champions. The great state of Connecticut is casting all 28 delegates for the next President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
I love that explanation of what Connecticut's all about.
That was
the
nice.
men are men and the women are champions.
Yes.
I mean, I agree with that part, but I don't understand the men being
That's
men.
saying just, say that, like a spade is a spade, right?
Okay.
I mean, so.
And Pez and submarines, so some good
Yes.
stuff in
It's
there.
always nice to see Linda McMahon still involved in state politics in Connecticut.
She's been
'cause
very
it's-
active tweeting, yeah.
I know, and it's been so great for the Republican Party over the past 6 years. I mean, you really, thank God the Republican Party has someone like Linda McMahon there.
All right, Josh, what else are you following politics-wise?
Well, what's interesting too is we have some locals, of course, are there among the delegates, and John Fry of Ridgefield is one of them, and Kevin Moynihan, who's a town councilman in New Canaan, is another. John Fry is a longtime state rep. From Ridgefield. So C.T. Meir had a nice story today, or yesterday rather, about them and kind of how they came, or they're mentioned, and how their thought processes changed. Fry was originally supporting Chris Christie, and then he backed Governor Scott Walker before, as it's described in this article in the C.T. Meir, before deciding the young man who fixed his car at Town Fair Tire in Danbury and the clerks at his favorite cigar shop in New Haven were right. They all talked about Trump being different, even if offensive at times. But time and again, they told Fry and others it was time for a non-politician. And then, and Fry is a bound delegate also, I believe, and so had to vote for Trump anyway. But everyone went with Trump in Connecticut. And then Kevin Moynihan of New Canaan is a delegate. He's a town council member there, as we mentioned before. And it was his wife and her friends who embraced Trump early. He was a backer of Mitt Romney in 2012. He started this cycle favoring Jeb Bush. Then he looked at Marco Rubio. His barber, though, an Italian immigrant, loved Trump. Told him he's not a politician, that's the thing, is what Moynihan said. And Moynihan said he finally decided to agree with his wife. So it probably made things easier at home, too.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. And we should mention First Selectman of Trumbull, Tim Herbst, is also at the convention, and he's been on social media sending out some photos and such, too. So a lot of excitement going on there.
Yeah, it's always fun. So, and the big talk, this happens too every time when everyone gets together at any convention, no matter what's happening. You always think, my state's gonna vote for my guy, and you're seeing that happen a lot now in Connecticut, and Trump is certainly, obviously this week's all about the Republican National Convention. Next week will be all about the Democratic National Convention. Hillary Clinton will likely name her vice presidential nominee on Saturday, so that could be the focus over the weekend, and people can, the media will forget about the RNC as these things tend to happen.
That's what happens.
But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if Connecticut is in play. Trump is certainly unconventional. A lot of people don't like Hillary Clinton. A lot of people don't like Trump either.
It has been rare, especially with the guests we've had on, for anyone to really give a sound endorsement for Trump. Nobody in Connecticut really seems to want to do that, but they've also mentioned that there's a lot of support, more than you'd think, in the state. And for people that are not so involved in politics for Donald
if you
Trump.
follow Joe Visconti on Twitter, you'd think that Donald Trump's been elected, emperor of the world. So there's that.
So we'll see what happens. That is going to be interesting, Josh. Something that we will definitely be following. But you want to step out for a break?
I guess.
All right. Is that okay with you?
I guess so.
All right. Well, we are going to step out for a break. When we come back, Doug Smith joins us, and we're going to take a look at his humorous take on the news coming up on CT Pulse after this.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Drop off your knives to be sharpened, grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
Mosquitoes, ticks, gone. Guaranteed. That's what Mosquito Squad guarantees as America's most trusted mosquito and tick control company. Locally owned and operated, over 90,000 homes have been protected by Mosquito Squad using their dual protection method for season-long protection which includes barrier spray service for eliminating mosquitoes and adult ticks, as well as supplemental programs to increase tick control. They use only USDA organic options, which are safe and non-toxic. Contact them today at www.squadctny.com or 203-893-4309. Mosquito Squad. No bugs, no bites, no kidding.
At Cabbage Patch Nursery School in Ridgefield, playtime is learning time. Using out-of-the-box activities and programs in science, dance, Spanish, Taekwondo, and so much more, learning is made fun. Aside from interactive classrooms, our center features a sensory room, computer lab, and a large outdoor space for playtime fun. Our carefully chosen staff believe in a supportive, safe environment and keeping you updated on your little one's experience. Cabbage Patch Ridgefield, helping shape your child's future. 29 Farrar Lane in Ridgefield. Call 203-340-1250 to register today.
When it comes to local entertainment, we've got it all.
From movies, local artists, etiquette, and more.
Watch HAN Arts and Leisure every Thursday at 2 on the HAN Network.
I'm Denise DiGregoli, the host of The Drive on the HAN Network. Join me Tuesdays for some motivational, intelligent talk with a little humor as we visit with people who live their lives mindfully. Tune in to The Drive live on Tuesdays, 12:30, here on the HAN Network.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
All right, Doug Smith was on a Boy Scout retreat last week. It looks like,
Yeah, that's, well, it's the morning there, I'm raising the flag. And
Raising something else.
Proving to the kids that, beer's more than a breakfast drink.
It does so much.
Got to mold young minds,
Well, Doug, we're happy to have you back this week and take a look at some of your recent cartoons, starting with, tell us about this one.
Oh, that's in Shelton, talking about the movies down there by the River Road they're showing on weekends. I think I borrowed from New Canaan. I think it was the other week. We had the alien in front of the movie screen, but he's just doing a little shadow figure there.
So disrespectful. And tell us about this launch trampoline
That's
park.
in Milford. That just opened up a couple weeks ago, so we got the fans there hopping to it.
And this is my favorite one. Accidents at Beach Park Pool can be avoided. This is in trouble, and it's disgusting, but there's been a lot of
it was just like
issues.
Caddyshack. They said, everyone was out of the pool, and they had to sterilize
There's
it.
issues with babies and not wearing the proper kind of diapers.
Why would you bring an infant to the pool anyway if they're not trained? I mean,
Well, also,
couldn't you just hose them down at home? With,
hose them down?
How could Tim Herbst be in Cleveland this week with something like this
Exactly.
going on? That's what I want to know.
He needs to address it. All right, up next, tell us about this one. The BOE is cracking down on illegal students.
Yeah, we got a lot of kids in Stratford who don't live in town or are attending the schools, and people are really up in arms over that. They don't want their taxes paying for them.
We hear that pretty much in every town.
Yeah.
You could use that cartoon again and again.
Exactly.
And up next, Broadway in the Park returns to Monroe. Check out that hovering bird. I'm not hovering, I'm doing jazz hands. I did not know there was jazz hands in I thought it was Shakespeare. It's Broadway in the Park, so that works. And this is a great one too. Classic cars on display at the Sidewalk Sale and Family Fun Day,
That's in
which was
Darien,
last week.
and we got a familiar car there.
Yeah, I like that.
And tell us
Another thing with another car, that's in Weston. They're talking about Old Mill Road is going to get speed humps on there. And
That's from a while ago, right? Or is that recent?
no, that's recent.
It's been going on.
Yeah. Well, they're always talking about it, but I guess it's going to happen now.
Yeah. And some parking enforcement officers are being accosted to such a degree that they feel threatened.
People in New Canaan are up in arms. There's these enforcement officers that I guess they're civilians who are helping out, but they put on a uniform. They're claiming they're drunk with power and just writing up tickets just left and right.
Everyone else is complaining that they're just writing people tickets and people are
now they
getting
wanted some
angry
body
and
cams because
accosting
they're feeling threatened by the people in town.
Yeah.
Right. And tell us about this
That's
one.
just a silly Ridgefield one. The Story Pirates are coming to town where they have a story time at the library.
I love it. Some of your great dad
So-
humor there. Okay, and
And
now
I
tell
just,
us about
I just want to say, if there's our two viewers out there, if you know of anyone who, any kids who are aspiring cartoonists, you can send them to this address or email them to my address there, dsmith@HurstMacorn.com, and we'll showcase your cartoons here.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's cool.
That'd be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to that. So definitely do that. Doug, thank you so much for joining us.
thank you.
Doug.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here on CT Pulse,
Yar.
Josh. Coming up at 2 o'clock, Nutmeg Sports with Frank Renito and Dave Stewart. They'll be talking about some of the renovations at Dunning Stadium in New Canaan, so definitely check that out. And of course, we'll see you next week for CT Pulse, Wednesdays at 12:30. If you missed anything, watch us on demand, HAN.network.
Let's hope that the men continue to be men and the women continue to be champions here in
Yes,
the Nutmeg
we will
State.
be.
So lots to live up to next week.
All right, see you next time.